Greetings and welcome to the Pastor's Study at Faith Community Church in Geneva, which we are also going to have a byline, Faith Community, the House of Love. That's a real challenge, House of Love. You come into the House of Love. How are you going to think? How are you going to respond? How are you going to receive God and pass God on to others? And tonight I want to talk about love. You're going to hear this a lot in the next few messages, because we're trying to see love from the perspective, from the insight that God has about himself. Now we all know 1 Corinthians 13 is the love chapter. I'm going to read it quickly, then emphasize two verses. Love suffereth long and is kind. Love envieth not. Love vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up. Doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not its own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. Bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Now, we can go through that chapter, those verses, and say, okay, I do that, I need to improve there, I don't do that, I do that, and see the qualities of love in your life. And you know you have all of them. And at different times, God is emphasizing different ones in your life. Then the 13th verse, and now abides faith, hope, love, these three. But the greatest is love. Why? Because God is love. We need to get that in our head. God is love, period. And so anything outside of love, we're not in God or the manifestation of God in our life at that time, because he's pure, he's holy, he's life, and all the promises of God. So as we look at our lives, and I'd ask, what causes an offense in your life or in our lives? What causes us to be offended? What it is, it's a truth is violated. A truth about love and the qualities and characteristics of love is violated. Therefore, you're offended, or we offend somebody else. But let's look at ourselves and examine ourselves tonight. So if I'm offended because of whatever, now, and it can really be wrong, but it means I'm not receiving a truth of God somewhere, because in God's protection of love, how can I be offended? Does this really offend Jesus Christ? Am I going to take this into eternity? Is it that important? No, it's not. Nothing down here is as important as the love of God in our hearts and in our relationships with each other. And so when we realize that Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes unto the Father but by me. So Jesus says, because of the cross, he looks down at us, you, me, and everyone you know. Jesus on the cross, resurrected, looks down with love and accepts us, and then points us to God the Father, who is what? Love. And so love takes us, because of the cross, through our lives and points us to God the Father. Now, as a pastor, I want to unconditionally, and I've examined my heart over and over and over. Matter of fact, I was thinking about this last Sunday morning, praying, and God showed me a revelation. I said, and I was thinking about somebody of the past that had been in the church, and I thought, I've accepted everybody that's ever come through those doors. And to this day, I can truthfully, honestly say that. As a pastor, my arms are wide open to anybody who comes through our church doors. I accept people. And then I started thinking about all the different kind of people. The good people, the bad people, the funny people, no problems, the people with nothing but problems, and on and on and on and on. I've accepted them. And all of a sudden, the revelation of, that's love. Now, I wouldn't say, oh, I love you, I love you. See, that's the characteristics of God, the characteristic of Jesus Christ. Because he loves us, he accepts us. So know this tonight. Doesn't matter what's in your life, how good you are, or what ugly has happened and hurt you, God loves you, because God loves you. And we need to get that into our hearts. We need to get that into our heads. And I truly believe that our church has unconditionally accepted everybody who comes to this church. We have everybody walk through that door. Unconditionally accepts people that comes to our church. What is that? That's the love of our people. That's the love that this church has. So acceptance of others is a manifestation of God's love. When you accept somebody willingly, you just accept them, you're sharing the love of God. Now, when acceptance is violated, love is violated. So catch that. When acceptance is violated, love is violated. So all of a sudden we've shifted from thinking God to thinking us. When love is violated, or when acceptance is violated, love is violated. And rejection hurts. See, anytime you've been rejected, and we all have in our lives, we need to teach our children growing up. We don't want to teach them the lie, be good and everything good will happen to you. That's a lie. Reality, be good, God's honoring you, God's blessing you, God loves you, good, bad, indifferent. We need to teach our children there's rejection in life. Just know there's good people and there's bad people. And even good people will say or do things that will hurt you. And whenever you're rejected, that hurts. But teach our children. So come to mom or dad. Let's talk about it when you feel rejected. Because Jesus never rejects you. God is always with you. I was thinking about acceptance. And I can only think of 2 incidences in 43 years of my ministry that I've seen rejection in a church that I've pastored, both in this church. Years ago, when I was ministering to the biker community and meeting them in strip joints and strip bars, one night about 5 of these women came down. I'd shared Jesus with them up there. They came to church one night, and after church, now when they walked in, you didn't have to be worldly wise to know, these women are different. I mean, they look like they're coming from a strip joint, all dialed up. They were proud of the way they looked. I was proud that they were there. I just felt God's love for these women. Anyway, we had the service. We're having coffee afterwards, and somebody walks over to me while I'm pouring coffee and says, well, have they changed yet? And the leader was right behind him and heard that. She turned and said, girls, and they all marched out and never came back. That's number 1 rejection that I've seen in my ministry. Up until recently, that's the most violated rejection, violation of God's love that I've ever seen. God brought them all the way from Rochester. The world, the flesh, the devil didn't. Jesus did. And a Christian judged them and rejected them. More recently, we had an individual who happened to see 2 women come to our church. They never even got into the inside door. They came to the outside door waiting for Sunday school to be over. I saw them, a glimpse, and they obviously had a different lifestyle than our church normally has. And he starts telling them how evil it is to have that kind of relationship. And he starts hammering on it and hammering on it, and they leave. Now, all this happens without me knowing it. It's after Sunday school. It's that 5-7 minute break there. I come in thinking, I'm going to meet 2 new ladies. I saw them come in. I know who they are or what lifestyle they're living, and they're gone. Well, afterwards, I find out that this sinner, this Christian, self-righteous sinner, jumps on them because of their lifestyle and tells them they're not going to heaven because of that. They left. So otherwise, they got on the inside door, but they didn't get into the sanctuary door. They came, catch this, they came to church to hear about God and the love of Jesus Christ, and they never got to hear it because of his judgment, because of his rejection. And people, that's a stain on my ministry that I don't think I'll ever get over. I think about it, I still get angry. I still have to give that to God. It's like, I often wonder, what do they think now? Every time they pass and see our building, what do they think? That's a church that doesn't accept people because of the way they live. Jesus Christ accepts everybody no matter how they live. And if you don't believe that, you need to get your heart right with God. God loves you, God loves them, and Jesus Christ proved it. Now, do we have to live differently or expected to live different? On and on. Yeah, but that's after you meet Christ. Know that God loves you, period. God loves everybody you know, period. And so we need to understand, when acceptance is violated, God is violated because love is violated. So when we love, we behave like Jesus Christ. How would Christ spoke to those two women? How would Christ spoke to the 5 women that came down from Rochester? Would he look and say, well, you need to dress different and you can... No. His love just goes out to them. He loves them. People, that's what we need to do. That's what I believe we do as a church, even though that will happen. Now, because of one individual, 2 separate situations, 2 separate men, don't judge a church because of one individual. God has put His love in this Faith Community Church, a house of love. Now, in relationships, I'll live like Christ and you live like Christ. I'll treat you like Christ will treat you, and you treat me like Christ would treat me. I'll speak to you like Christ will speak to you, and you speak to me like Christ would speak to me. See, love is without blame. Love is without offense. Love is we exhort each other. And so we put these good qualities of love. And so you go through that chapter and say, oh, okay, there are the bad qualities, there are the good qualities. I want to make sure my thoughts are in the good qualities. I want to make sure that I speak to others in the good qualities. I want to look at others through the eyes of Jesus Christ, through the eyes of Jesus Christ. Bobby sent me this text this week. She was reading, and it says, love is the greatest gift of all. It takes you out of yourself and places another in a higher position. You become lessened while another becomes greater. That's what Christ did. It didn't demean Him. It didn't take any of His power away or His sanctity away. Christ was the Son of God, and He loved and He exhorted and lifted up the rest of us. So, church, I know that you love, and I thank you for loving, and keep proving your love. Let us understand the new concept of this church. The byline is Faith Community, House of Love. So I hope to see you this Sunday in the House of Love. God bless you.